Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Xhibition Kitchen today. We are honored to have our guest chef here today. I'd like to say our relationship started a year ago for homecoming. Last year, we had Dana Cowan, Senior Editor-in-Chief, with her cookbook here, and she featured, I can't tell you how many chefs, but the 3 chefs from Boston she brought along with her. And one of them, we are very happy to say, was Kristen Kish, who won Top Chef, Bravo's Top Chef Season 10. So in passing, I said, Kristen, would you come back? Because our students keep asking, when is Kristen coming back? So here she is. No, thank you, Kristen, so much. Kristen was born in South Korea and was adopted into a family in Kentwood, Michigan. She showed an affinity for cooking at a young age. Her mother suggested for her to go to culinary school, and since attending Le Cordon Bleu in Chicago, Kristen has never turned back. After moving to Boston, Kish worked in many high-profile restaurants, including Barbara Lynch's. Everybody, I don't even need to mention all of those restaurants that Barbara has in the city of Boston. But that's where Kristen began her career here in Boston. And so, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Kristen. She's going to please everybody, just take your time, ask questions. We're thrilled that everybody was able to come out to this event today. Kristen just finished her 36-hour adventure on the Travel Channel. So she is going to be cooking a couple of things for you guys, and you guys are going to get to taste some of this food. Oh my gosh. I know. So without any further ado, here's Kristen Kish. Thank you.
That could have ever happened. Now I feel now it actually has to taste good. So you're gonna have to tell me it tastes good. So awesome. Thank you for having me back. This is also a fantastic time. Last time we were here with Dana, and she brought all her Asian Boston chefs, which was fantastic. So now I get to feature a couple of things from my upcoming cookbook. So that comes out in spring of 2017. I'll remind you, don't worry. If you follow me on social media, it's going to be all over the place, so don't get annoyed.
We already booked her for the XK.
Right. And I'll come back to the whole little thing. Yeah. So I guess we'll just start. I mean, homecoming week, right? So is
homecoming week.
Is it like classes happening right now? Or is everyone like skipping something? I skipped a lot of classes in college, but you shouldn't do that. Cool. So I think that we're going to start with one of my favorite things, and it's my grandmother's recipe that I tweaked a little bit. And this is what you're going to be able to taste. It's one of my favorite things. If you don't like sauerkraut, don't eat it because it tastes like sauerkraut. So it's really good. This is kind of one of the more homey dishes in my upcoming book. So I don't know if you've known a little bit about my cooking, but it's slightly elevated, I guess, if that makes sense. This one is not, I don't think. So we'll start with this one. And please feel free to ask questions, because if I just keep talking and fill space, I'm going to say something really stupid. So if you have any questions, just blurt it out, please. Awesome. Okay, so the way my grandmother used to do this was she used to buy Jimmy Dean sausage and use like that minute rice stuff. Can you hear me?
No.
Okay.
Can you pull it up a little bit?
Is it on? Is it on? Is it on?
You guys see it?
It's on. Just trying to get the pack on.
Is it on?
I think the pack's on.
Can you just check?
Yeah.
I think it's...
These things are very complicated.
Hopefully it's going to be wireless soon. It's not on.
Oh, that was my fault.
Oh, look at this. There's always something.
Yeah, it's okay.
Here you go.
Is it on? Do I need to stand over? Oh, no, that's so loud. Okay. Yeah, can we turn it down? Is it good? Is it good? Can everyone hear? Perfect. Okay. So back to this. So my grandmother used to do Xhibition sausage, the par-baked rice. But it was one of my favorite things to do, and I think that's kind of where my affinity for sauerkraut kind of came into being, as like a 4-year-old helping her make this kind of stuff. So instead of Xhibition sausage, which I still love to this day, we're going to make our own. So when you think of sausage, you're like, oh, it's this long process. You got to whip it and emulsify and all this stuff. It's simplified. You can just buy ground beef, ground pork, and that's it. So if you want to take the extra steps to kind of whip it and make it into like a full sausage, you are more than welcome to, but it's really unnecessary. So you can either use your bare hands or extra large gloves like this. Clearly it's working out really well. Great. So we're just going to... It's just always an adventure. Okay. So we have the ground pork, the ground beef. If you don't like either one of those, you can use veal. You can use all beef, all pork, whatever you'd like. And then some rice, brown rice, jasmine rice, basmati rice, minute rice, whatever you'd like. All the recipes in my book are meant to be played with a little bit. So change them, make them your own, publish a new book using my stuff, but just change one ingredient and then you're good. I won't sue you. So, so we're going to add a little coriander, some red chili flakes, black pepper, fennel seeds, grated garlic, paprika, and onion that's grated. So you want to grate it because you're getting all that juice. And we're going to put some extra large gloves back on. Cool. And again, all the spices can be interchangeable. Just change one, and then it's yours. It's not mine anymore. Salt, lots of it. Does anyone not cook? Oh, awesome. That's really, is anyone not admitting that they don't cook? She doesn't cook. That's Jackie, by the way. Say hi. Hi. Hi, Jackie. Okay, cool. So now we are just going to mix it all together. And from here, so I would recommend you not do, oh, it's fine. It was just part of the story. It was entertaining. I would recommend not doing what I'm going to do, but I didn't teach you this. So this is what I do, because a lot of times you'll sear something off or poach a piece of meat that's uncooked to kind of test for seasoning and salt. Sometimes I just put it in my mouth and then I spit it out. So it's raw pork, it's raw beef, you'll be fine. So we're going to try that right now. So don't be grossed out, and it's kind of gross. Just like that. And it's perfect. Okay, so being like a young 4-year-old who used to wait very patiently, and a person that doesn't have patience, can ask her, I have 0. This was always like the most painstaking process. But it's well worth it, I promise. Okay, so what we're going to do, so that was easy, right? Right? It's also easier when everyone does all this stuff for you, and then you just do this. So we're going to take some of this filling. If you've ever rolled a burrito, it's the same exact thing. So I'm going to put it all in there, roll it up, fold in the sides, and roll it tight. Or if you've rolled anything else. Just saying. Sorry. It's hot. We've all done it. Or you maybe not, but I have. Okay. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to do a couple. Does anyone want to try it? Because we got, cool. I saw you first. Because we want to fill up this whole pan. Here you can. Would you like extra large gloves, medium gloves, small gloves? Okay. So we can tag team this. It'll be fun. All right.
I work in a lab, so I wear these.
Gotcha. Okay. Have you ever rolled cabbage before? No. Have you rolled anything else before?
Maybe.
Yeah. You're gonna be a pro. It's gonna be great. Okay. So here's your leaf, and then my leaf.
How much?
Were you not watching?
I couldn't tell.
Okay, yep, so you're going to start at the base where the core is. Because if you start at the other end where the soft one is, that core is going to kind of prop open that leaf and it's not going to sit nice and flat.
What kind of green are you using?
I'm sorry?
What do
Here?
you, yeah.
Cabbage, just plain green cabbage. The cheapest stuff you can find. Okay, let's see, what did you do? Maybe not so much a ball. More like, so if you go like this, you can if you do like the meat, if you flatten it out into this cube and then go. Okay, so while you do that, my grandmother always used to serve it with these marinated cucumbers. It was one of my favorite things, so it's one of the simplest things. So it's just sliced cucumbers. You can slice them as thin or as thick as you want. It really doesn't matter. You can tell my cookbook is going to be like, do whatever you want kind of thing. I'll give you the tools, and then we're going to add some sugar, some red wine vinegar, lots of salt, and sour cream. We'll mix it together, and you just kind of let it sit. My dad and my grandmother who used to make this, they're Hungarian/German, so that's kind of where this all comes from. It's called teakapasta. I'm sure I'm even pronouncing it wrong. There's some weird like in there that I don't know how to do. So. And mix and mix and mix. It might look wrong because it's going to curdle a little bit just from the vinegar and the sour cream hitting each other, but if you keep working it, it'll be just fine. There, and then lots of fresh dill. It's one of my favorite herbs. It's gorgeous.
That's good.
You really, I mean, honestly, you can't mess this up, I promise. If they come apart, it's still going to taste good. Lots of dill. The problem with cooking too, I know there's a lot of problems. The problem that I have with cooking is when I taste and taste and taste, and by the time it's time to eat it, I don't want to eat it anymore. So I'm going to keep tasting and tasting, then you all have to eat it and tell me what you think. Do things, what do you call them here? Dorms? Is that what? I'm going to preface this by saying, before I went to culinary school, I started going to a normal university. I nearly failed, and it was not a fun experience. So I lived at home and commuted from my parents' home, like about an hour away, into school, because living in the dorms just wasn't for me. So I never really had like one of those fancy ones with the kitchens and stuff. But do you guys have kitchens? Yeah, some. How do you get the ones with the kitchens? Is it? Do you have to like have a certain GPA, or is it based on academics? Or?
No, it's like, are you willing to live in like a box and then have a kitchen?
Oh.
I had a nice kitchen.
Okay, well yeah, you had a nice apartment, but she got lucky.
Ah. And they're more expensive, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. My parents were like, we're going to give you the basics of financial support, and then you're screwed, and then you're going to be on your own. So I did not have one of those fancy ones. Okay, so now we're going to taste this. Oh, it's good. Sure good. Okay. Perfect. Amazing. You can keep the gloves for a souvenir if you like. Yes, I will. Okay, cool. So easy enough, right? No one's scared yet of the book? Okay. Because here I picked two things. The one, obviously, that kind of reminds me of my childhood and makes me very happy and is relatively simple. And the other one's slightly more advanced. I was telling Deborah earlier, when I sold the book to my publisher, they looked at the first 100 recipes and they were like, no, absolutely not. It's too hard, it's too advanced, no one's going to buy it. And I was like, well, what do you mean no one's going to buy it? And she was like, cookbooks, people want to cook out of them. I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's okay. Okay, where am I at? Here we are. Okay, so my grandmother always did it without the tomato base. I like it. It adds a little bit of sweetness because sauerkraut's so briny and salty and pickly. So just regular tomato juice. And you fill it up about, I don't know, halfway, 3/4 of the way up the cabbage. And then sauerkraut. I don't make my own sauerkraut, I buy it. So find your favorite brand. And then you want to save some of that juice too and add that in there. Kind of tuck it in. And then she never added bacon, but we all know that bacon is just better anyways. So we're going to lay this over the top.
You guys are too quiet.
Way too quiet.
Now, come on.
Give them a
Question.
beer. They all need a mid-afternoon beer. I'm a bad influence. Okay. Cool. And so that is essentially it. So basically that gets covered with foil. It goes into the oven for 3.5, 4 hours. Pull it out and eat it. That's it. Easy.
What's it? Yeah, I was just thinking.
Between
What temperature?
325, 350. So what you're doing is slow braising it. You can do it in a crock pot. I think crock pots are widely underused. We don't have one, but I wish we did. I also don't cook that much at home. What? I know. I mean, people assume that if you're a chef and this is something you do for a living, you have like this huge kitchen. You have all these things and toys and gadgets. I think our fanciest thing we have is like free stuff that people gave us that we don't use. It's like packed into a closet somewhere. So, I mean, find what you need. You don't need a lot of stuff. Have a knife, have some spoons, some pots and pans. If you can get them for free, it's even better.
Does anybody remember last year when Kristen lost her spoon on stage?
No. Did I hide it? Well, it's this spoon.
Yeah.
And I was freaking out because it's one that she gave me, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to get killed. So, I mean, that's very simple. And then I serve it alongside with the cucumbers, and it's like this cooling, kind of herbaceous notes, and then you have something pickly and briny in the bacon and like that rich pork and beef mixture. So it's very good. Highly recommend it. Okay. Now I will say, this next one, I haven't made in front of a live audience yet before. It was kind of one of those things that was in my head, and I wrote it down, and I'm like, of course it's going to work. This is great. But we're going to find out together. It just makes sense that it's going to work, I think. So I don't know if it's any surprise that I kind of grew up on really shit food. Chicken fingers, mozzarella sticks, French fries. My mother probably wasn't very happy with me, but that's what I liked. And this is kind of my version of a fancy mozzarella stick, Tiffany. Okay. So everyone's had burrata, right? Okay, like that creamy, oozy mozzarella ball. Have you all had phyllo or cattafi? Okay, so we use cattafi if you can't find it. Phyllo dough is just fine. You can even do puff pastry if you'd like.
Kristen, what's the difference?
So yeah, I'll show you. So phyllo you have all in the sheets, right? Cattafi is like this nesty kind of thing happening. And so the first time I saw this used was in a book by like this old school French chef. And then most recently where I was working, they were wrapping langoustines in it. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine and well, but langoustines are fancy. Like this French chef did some fancy shit. And I was like, let's just put cheese in it. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to find out together if it works. Great. So if you get the really good burrata, it's quite delicate. You can kind of see it's like, if you push too hard, it's all going to ooze out, which is what we want at the end. So don't burst it before. It's kind of like having a bursted egg yolk or something, and then you're like, it's so sad. Because you want that gratification of like cutting into it and it all spilling out.
So does everybody know the difference between burrata and mozzarella?
No? Okay, so mozzarella, you get it, and it's like a one firm ball. It's all kind of the same texture. It's all pulled. You pull the curds with the whey, and you create this nice ball of mozzarella. This is essentially that on the outside, but on the inside, it's basically that heavy cream cheesy mixture that nothing was done to it. So it's like runny cheese in the middle.
So good.
Delicious. Okay, so now we are going to do a little egg wash. Little pastry brush, mix it all together. And this is just going to get the, to make sure the nigella seeds, or you can use black sesame seeds, it's fine. So you want to make sure that they stick, and then the salt and the seasoning. Because if you eat burrata on its own, in the best way it's under-seasoned, but for a completed dish, something like this, you do want it seasoned.
What are nigella seeds?
So nigella seeds are known as black caraway seeds. I think they taste a little like cumin. Some may argue with me on that. Do we? Oh, we do. So everyone's going to taste the cabbage, but this one only one person or two people gets to taste.
So we can pass.
Yeah.
We can pass that around.
You can taste it. Stick your fingers in it. Or maybe not. Here, we'll do this. Yeah. This. Eat at your own risk, depending on who your neighbor was before. Okay, so you want to make sure that you drain all this liquid off very carefully. And we're going to brush it with a little bit of egg wash. Okay. Actually, I did do this demo in Aspen for the Food and Wine Fest, but we didn't use Katafi, we used phyllo, and then I was the asshole that burst the cheese before it got to the plate, so I was like hiding it and trying to get it on the plate as soon as possible so no one noticed. But I don't think I'm going to get it past anyone at the breaks today. So we're going to put a little salt and some nigella seeds. Throw it all in there. Okay. Now, so this comes in the freezer section, and if you can't find it, again, phyllo is probably right where it should be. And then as soon as you open the package, you want to keep it in a damp paper towel, because if you don't, it's going to kind of dry up and become brittle. So when you go to roll it, all these little things are going to break on you. So you just take off these pieces and line it up. Kind of separate them just a little bit. And better to start with too much than not enough, because you can always trim it off a little bit. So add the cheese.
Kristen, can you talk a little bit, what was the Top Chef, being on Top Chef like?
What was it like? I've blocked it out.
What was
It just means that I'm going to go through this process of interviewing and psych evaluations and make sure you're crazy but not too crazy kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, fine. And then literally I woke up one morning and was like, okay, you're going to go cook in Vegas to try to get onto the Seattle thing. And I was like, okay, so I'm not there yet, so I'll just go cook in Vegas and whatever happens, happens. So I went to cook in Vegas and then was told that I made it. And when we went to Vegas to cook, we thought it was just like one of these like test runs, see how you are on camera, see if you could cook. Little did I know that it was the first episode and there was a camera crew. So we walked in, I remember walking in and I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like I was wearing like this oversized chef coat, my hair was a little messy, I had gone out the night before, I was like, I don't really care. So I walk in and literally you see Emerald, all the lights, all the cameras, and the producers are running around with whatever the hell they're talking about, I don't know. And I'm like, oh shit, this is real. This is happening and it's going to be on TV, so you better get your shit together real fast. So we went in there, we did it, it happened, and then I got to go to Seattle. So once that happened, there was about a 2-month break before I had to go to Seattle for 6 weeks. So I had 2 months to stew in the fact that this was awful.
Thank you for doing it. I won my fantasy league that year.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you win a lot of money?
Not that much.
But you got to win.
I won $100, so.
That's awesome.
I'll give you.
I'll take $100 any day. Thank you. Oh, I thought I first did. Okay. So it's going to get a little messy. Did it first? We're just, it's okay. We're just going to make one big crunchy thing. It's going to be great. Okay. A little bit. I don't know what that is.
It's oil.
It's what?
Should be oil.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, it was definitely fun. It obviously afforded me really great opportunities. Very happy now that I did it. But when I went back to do duals, I was like, I don't know how in the hell I just spent 6 weeks of my life living like this, because it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. So if any of you are thinking about it and like doing all that stuff, just talk to me first. I'll walk you through it. Okay. So obviously this is a very large portion. You can kind of, okay, hold on, before I keep talking. So with the oil, you have to, before it starts to crisp up, you have to coat the whole thing so it starts to create this like nice smooth surface as opposed to all these little crunchy bits. So You don't have to use your hands. I prefer it. So this is like one of those like things you put on a platter for like a cheese tray kind of thing. Oil's hot. She's like, oh, shit, it's hot. So we're trying to finagle this into like a nice little package here.
Kristen, are you of the mindset of warm the pan, then add the oil, or add the oil and warm it all together?
Right in the middle. Because a lot of times with nonstick, they'll tell you don't heat it up because if it gets to like 500 plus degrees, it's going to start giving off these toxins. I'm like, well, don't give me a pan that gives off toxin. So I believe it, but I don't believe it. But if you start with a hot pan and add your oil, the second you add that oil, it's going to combust, right? It's going to burn. So it's trying to find that middle sweet spot of a warm pan, warm oil, and then bringing them up together. Okay, so now we have like a nice little package here. And then we're going to just start to fry it. I'm sorry?
I'm amazed with the cheese isn't
Me
coming out.
too. Me too. Always clean as you go. I didn't learn this until I left my mom's house and didn't have a dishwasher.
Why do you choose that over phyllo? It seems I'd never be able to pull that off. Easier for me.
I mean, phyllo is going to be slightly simpler. This just looks cooler.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to turn. It's like a Hot Pocket. We all know what Hot Pockets are. Okay. And I have this OCD thing where like I like straight edges. So. Okay. And so while this is kind of crisping up, we'll throw it on low because you don't want to do it all on high because you're going to crisp up this outside, and then all the little layers of phyllo aren't going to crisp up underneath, so they're going to be kind of raw. And then obviously you want the cheese in the center to be warm and kind of gooey. So. And now your favorite part. Okay, so we're going to baste a little bit with the hot oil, kind of get the sides. Do you think you can do this? No. No, okay. I like your honesty. Okay. And then over here, what we're going to serve it with is like a date syrup. So it's just dates, water, lemon juice, and a little bit of honey. Dates are one of those dried fruits that I can't eat by themselves. I find that they're too sweet. So I like to use it for like a sugar substitute or just to sweeten something up. So we reduce this a little too far. Because if you think about like salty, crunchy, creamy, you need something a little bit sweet. And then we're going to put some bitter greens and some nice fresh radishes to cut through all that fat. Okay, so once we get... So once kind of all your sides are nice and brown, everything gets finished with a little bit of butter. And then let it foam up. I've never even made this for her yet. Maybe she should taste it. Okay. So as your butter starts to foam, before it gets too brown, we're going to keep basting, basting, basting. So that kind of finished crisping up over here. And then for our greens, I'm going to use some of the radish top greens. So when you get the radishes, they look like that over there with all the beautiful greens and stuff. And those are really beautiful, nice and bitter, edible, obviously. And then a little bit of mizuna, which is also kind of spicy and bitter. We have some shaved radishes, some scallions, and then a little bit of mint. So we're just going to dress these really lightly with a little lemon juice, a little salt, and some oil.
You do Thanksgiving? You cook for?
Do we do Thanksgiving?
Last year.
Okay, so last year we have. Would you like to say what we had?
We made a tofurkey. Okay.
We made a tofurkey.
Will you do it again?
Tofurkey?
Yeah.
I'm not. She liked it. It's not my thing. But did like the stuff. I mean, stuffing and green bean casserole. We are not vegan or vegetarian. I don't know why. I think it was your idea. It was her idea. Okay, so now we have this nice little fresh salad. A little more salt. Cool.
What location for your new show have you gone to that you're most excited about going to, or that you're most excited to go to?
So we filmed everything already. I would go back to Berlin. I thought it was a really amazing, amazing city with like so much vibrancy and life, and still had like this grit city feel. There was this one time we were sitting, Kyle was filming one of his things. So the way you see it on TV is not how we film it. It's kind of, they just tell us when and where to be. And so I was sitting out in a van waiting for Kyle to finish doing his spray painting graffiti thing. And I was just watching. I had like the best show. I watched for 2 hours these prostitutes being picked up and not being picked up. And the thing is, it wasn't like, there was nothing taboo about it. Like, these girls are making money. They're doing it, like, hopefully on their own accord. But like, there was no issue. So as long as you weren't hurting anybody, kind of the rule in Berlin, what I found was do whatever you want, kind of thing. Okay, so we're going to pull this out before it starts to break. Like this.
No, I was here for Boston. Right.
So just like anything that comes out of hot oil, French fries, mozzarella sticks, anything that's deep fried, as soon as it comes out, you want to hit it with salt. So if you don't and it cools, that salt is just kind of fall off as soon as you pick it up again. How's the cabbage? Good? Cool. Okay. So now we're going to cut into this, and we're going to find out together what it looks like. So a little bit of cheese, just kind of stir the salad along the side.
Kristen, what restaurant do you work at these days?
I cook everywhere. So I do dinners. Here's the thing. So that's a question I get often. So what restaurant? When are you going to open up a restaurant? When are you going to be somewhere permanent? And the answer is I don't know. I think, without getting too far into it, like I think restaurants are changing, and as long as I'm being able to cook for people, that's good for me. And I like to kind of go do all these different things: 200-person dinners, 10-person dinners, you know, demo dinners or not, where like I'm in the back. I like the change. I get bored very easily, and then I kind of get to see what I like and what I don't like. So I'm very fortunate that I can kind of find kitchens. As long as I have a kitchen and some equipment, I can cook anybody dinner. So.
We'll remember that.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have. So it's just like this crispy cheese, little salad. Anyone want to taste it?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay.
Or you send it out to the lot.
Cool. You can pick that up. I'll do two. I'll do two. Huh?
The date?
Oh, the dates. Thanks. Okay. That's why she's here. Okay.
Do you have a favorite dish or recipe you like to cook?
That's really hard. I would say.
Sorry, Kristen, can you repeat
Sure.
the question?
The question was, do you have a favorite recipe or dish that you like to do? I think, who asked that? Okay, I think the most frequented thing that I do is maybe a roast chicken. I think it's simple, it's easy to do, takes, an hour and a half from start to finish, and we're eating this really comforting meal at the end of the day. Other than that, it kind of changes. It's whatever I'm in the mood for. It depends on the season, it depends on what she wants, it depends on what I feel like eating. So it changes, but roast chicken is kind of the go-to. Like we're stuck and we don't have anything for dinner, and we don't want to go out and we don't want to order takeout. We don't want to go to Subway. We love Subway. We had that last night.
Did you get the buy one get one?
Did you? I stayed in the house. She just went out and
Buy
got it.
one, get one 6-inch, like that doesn't work because she eats a 12-inch.
Thanks. I eat a lot. Okay, so here, someone can taste this one. We're just, I don't know how you want to do it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I'll go
come on,
grab it.
Joan, and yeah.
There's enough to like pass it around. I'll make another one.
Yeah, wait a minute, we have to. We gotta split that. We'll get you guys some forks tonight.
Yeah. Usually there's a trivia question.
Right.
Where's your favorite place to eat Boston besides Subway?
Besides Subway. We go to Kaze Shabu Shabu a lot. I think last month I was there maybe 6 times. It's kind of my go-to. It's easy. We're in and out in an hour and we're home. Outside of that, I mean, we like go to B&G Oysters a lot, Butcher Shop, a lot of the Barbara Lynch places. Oleana is a definite favorite of ours when we feel like crossing the river. What else do we got? I don't even know. Salty pig. We love the salty pig. Huh? Love sarma. I surprised her with like a big group of our friends for her birthday last year, and that was the first time either one of us had been there. And honest to God, like one of the best bites of fried chicken that I've ever had. And then the frozen yogurt with all the little accompaniments. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Anna's been here maybe 3 times in the
She's
last
great.
10 years.
I adore her.
She's wonderful. And she was one of the first, that's her cookbook right there in the spice. That was her first cookbook.
Okay, I have another one. I won't go on this thing. I didn't taste it, so you're going to tell me how it tastes.
I just have to get some forks.
Tastes amazing.
Tastes
Does
great.
it?
It's amazing, yeah.
It's crispy cheese. And you can't really go wrong, right?
And it balances out well with the salad.
Does it? Excellent.
And you get a little dollop of that.
Would you like to be my recipe tester? I can pay you in books.
Your presence is enough.
Oh, no way. Look at him. He's so sweet. You're so... Oh, make sure it's good. Make sure it's a good picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Didn't happen.
What?
Didn't happen.
I know. If it's not on Instagram, then it's not real.
Kristen, what kind of beer do you like?
Beer? High Life. Miller High Life. Budweiser.
Champagne and beers.
Anything that's not fancy craft beer. But my drink of choice is bourbon. Yeah. So just like a nice bourbon, whiskey, or scotch on the rocks is my go-to.
TBR's the best
You have a favorite?
Do I have what?
Favorite bourbon?
Favorite bourbon.
I'm going to pass this
My
mic
go-to
down.
is just a bullet because all bars carry it, whether you're in a dive bar or a nice place. What's if miss something, Mr. something? No? I don't know. I'll drink anything. What do you think? Is it good? Don't lie. This is not the place. Okay, good.
I have a question. Can you tell us why tattoos?
Tattoos. Yeah, oh yeah, there's a lot. Okay, so we'll do the speed round of tattoos. The Korea thing, a Korean name, the number, I was adopted, and then they gave me this information before my name changed. And then that was the first one. And then from there, I mean, I have everything from the spoon, which my best friend Stephanie also has. We were going through this weird time with our exes, and we were just like, let's go get a tattoo and make ourselves feel better. So we got matching ones. And then a butter knife, the phenerms, a dead branch, because I find beauty in kind of different odd places, a fish, the music note, grew up playing instruments, primarily the piano as a kid. Asian kid. I was the piano. The crane, that one's for her. And then, all right, love you in my mom's handwriting. Because at a certain point, my mom was like, okay, enough isn't. After this one, she was like, no more. And so when I got something for my mom and dad, like that kind of reset. So I got to get a few more. So I have the love you from my mom, the 546 from my dad. He was a sailor as a kid, or like when I was a kid, he had like this little sailboat, and that was his issue number for his first sailboat. I have a little stick man with broken balloon strings and balloons flying off of them. I could make up something for it, but I just thought it kind of was cool. It makes sense. Shell Silverstein. Yeah. Yes, where the sidewalk ends. So where like the two kids and the dog are looking over the ledge, that's what this one is. And then like I have this body outline up here. Again, it's like that weird like finding beauty in like kind of non-beautiful places. So body outline, what is this person doing? Oh, holding an umbrella that doesn't have like the umbrella sheet over it. It's like a broken umbrella. This one I got in Istanbul. It was on TV, which was pretty amazing. And then these two are the newest ones. So it's this Japanese wire sculptor. So you have the feet and kind of everything, all the wires going off of it. And then I got this one 5 days ago maybe. So it's the skull with the head going up. So it's kind of like feet on the ground, head in the clouds kind of thing. So I keep getting them, and I try to find these meaningful descriptions behind them, but it's really just, I think they're beautiful.
We're talking to the back of the room right now.
Okay.
They got the last seats, but...
Well, where do you get your tattoos done locally?
I go to Good Face Tattoo. Okay. You know, I see you over there. It's an amazing place, and I see a guy named Ian. So don't everyone go book, because then I won't be able to get it.
Yeah, and like, what was the most unexpected adventure you did while you were traveling for your show?
Oh gosh.
Or like, did you get cut away and go to like fun queer bars and things?
You know, Berlin. Honest to God, Berlin.
Did you go the weekend?
No.
Oh man.
So we were out. So we filmed this little segment with this one girl who like started this huge food movement and market kind of entrepreneurial kind of stuff. And we had like this amazing 8-course dinner on camera, and then after that she was like, I'm taking you guys out, and Kyle and I were like, okay, we work at like 8 o'clock the next morning, but sure. So she took us out, and we bar hopped until about 4 or 5 in the morning. So if you rewatch that episode, you'll be able to tell which morning was the next morning. But yeah, so we went out, and she took us out, and she was like, do you guys like gay bars? And we're like, well, we don't really care, of course. Like, whatever, take us wherever is fun. She's like, well, every place here is a gay bar. And so it was kind of like that vibe of like anything goes, and there was no discrimination, and it just was like, you know, you go to a bar, you have fun, and you see some interesting people, and it's normal, you know, which I appreciated. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, the whole TV experience for 36 hours was unexpected, and never really did I search out for that. It just kind of fell in my lap and came to me. So TV is not my normal. Speaking in front of people is not my normal. I do it because I think it's fun, but it's not a natural skill, we'll say. So the whole thing was unexpected because I was taken completely out of my comfort zone.
Does anybody else have any questions? Aha. I was just back there. Here you go.
This is more of a business, restaurant industry question.
Sure.
What do you think is one thing that is missing in the restaurant industry today?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. One thing that's missing. I don't know if there's anything missing, but I find that I'm lacking this intimate feeling of what a restaurant should be. Because a lot of times, especially with shows and celebrity chefs and, the things on Netflix and Chef's Table, Minder Chef, I think they're all really great and brilliant, but it's putting the focus on to the chef and their craft, which is lovely. But what I like to focus on is the experience and the community around a table and the conversation that takes place outside of the food. When I've told this story a million times, so I apologize if I'm repeating, but when I was at Monton, I would stand, I tried at least once during service to stand kind of where no one could see me, and I could watch the dining room kind of move and pay attention to different tables. Because in the back we get last names, table number, restrictions, allergies, and seat numbers. And so what I was missing is understanding who was seat number 1, seat number 2, what they were celebrating, looking at this table over here and seeing some celebration of a kid that just graduated college and his grandparents just came in that he hasn't seen, and watching that interaction. Or the interaction over here that's like this weird first date happening. And then when I went back into the kitchen, I could put faces to names, and then not saying that I didn't try hard, but I could try harder, because then I could see everyone as like human beings. And I think that's what we're missing, because a lot of times there is disconnect. And it's about, hey, I'm a chef, I love this food, I'm going to give this to you, I hope you like it, I hope you enjoy your experience. But I think there's a level that can be taken a little bit further.
Thank you.
What do you think there's missing? Because then I'll open it.
Well, I asked the question because my sister is a pastry chef in Myalina.
Oh yeah,
New York.
love. Oh my god, I love it there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always have these discussions with her about I'm an entrepreneurship major, so I always want to see what's going on in the restaurant industry and see what needs fixing, what can you make in a new way. Mm-hmm. So that was the basis of my question is what do you think is missing in terms of how can we make it better and how can it happen?
Yeah. I also think that, we're getting there with like this open kitchen dynamic, and you can see and interact, but you need everyone to add to that experience, because a lot of times you might have like 2 people that really don't want to be out in an open kitchen and they don't really talk and whatever else, but the entire room needs to be one, as a guest, as the dishwasher, as the guy pouring your wine and water that you never really catch his name. There is this sense of community that I feel is just disconnected. So.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
So could you talk about the chef community in Boston? How often do you hang out with your coworkers? What do you guys do on a weekly basis, I guess?
Okay, so this can get a little complicated. Boston industry is very, very small. We all know each other. Do we all hang out with each other? No, I think there's groups within it that kind of click together, but it's just like making friends inside your own workplace. You click with some people, you don't, and you also have to factor in our crazy schedules that no one really has the same day off. So we're all friendly. We all appreciate what everyone's doing for the city. Do we hang out all the time? No, and I definitely don't. So I see them mostly at work events. And we'll try to make plans. We'll try to say, hey, let's go out for a drink, but it rarely happens, at least from my point of view. And when I am home too, and when you're outside of the restaurant, unless they're your close, like true friend, I'd rather sit on my couch eating Subway with her, or catching up with friends, that I've known for 10 years.
Yeah. So after Top Chef, did a lot of people come and try to recruit you, or how did you decide to stay committed to your boss and your venture?
As soon as, midway through the season, that's when all these things started to kind of trickle in. I was like, oh my god, I'm kind of nervous, I don't know what to do. So at the end of the day, because I didn't know what to do, I stuck with what I knew I wanted to do, which was stick with Barbara, stick with cooking. And it was also a smart business move too, because had I left mid-season, had I left Stir mid-season, no one would be able to have my food, and no one would know where to find me or kind of associate me with something. So that was a little bit of strategy that was also just out of passion. And just because you go on TV, my goal on going on TV wasn't to become famous and to become known or to be a celebrity chef by any means. And I still pushed that away as much as possible. So it was only natural for me to stay doing what I was doing. And by far, to this day, stir was my favorite job. So it's me cooking like this and 10 people sitting around. So there kind of lies the intimacy and like the connection and understanding people and hearing their story as opposed to me just shoving food in their face and telling them, well, this is going to be great. You're going to love it. This is where my inspiration came from. So I got to learn a little bit more about my guests.
I think you're very well respected, as you can see this whole room. Hate to see you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know about the celebrity chef thing.
Well,
I think it works that way.
That's a word that kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit because there is a stigma of being a celebrity chef. There's, you have some people, and to each their own. Like, I don't knock anybody that wants to be up here or over here or whatever. It's just, the definition that I know of celebrity chef is something that I don't want to be. But I appreciate everyone knowing who I am to come to these things. So
you're very humble. Very nice.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
You're excited to see Italy come to Boston.
I am. I actually am. I have yet to go to his pizza place. I hear it's great. Yeah. I haven't even been to the one in New York yet. I know, I should. But yeah, anything like the Boston Public Market, anything that brings this influx of beautiful products and passionate people, great. So we'll see when it comes and how it does, and there's always room for people to showcase their products and for all of us to be able to appreciate them. So yeah, anything that adds to it, I think it's fantastic.
Who have been some of your most significant mentors?
Barbara. And then before Barbara, I'd say Gerard, who was my chef de cuisine at Sensing when I worked for Guy Martin. So those two kind of set me on my path and helped me find my way. So the difference between them was Gerard was, classically French and like this French mentality of this is how you do it. Don't fuck with it, basically. And so I learned discipline and I learned how to perfect one way of doing something. The way that Barbara taught me was she kind of stood over here. If I had a different way of doing it, she'd let me do it. She'd let me figure out if I liked it and why I liked it. She'd offer her opinion and her 2 cents. But at the end of the day, she just let me do whatever I wanted. She'd let me get up to that line where she could see me like kind of reaching too far or trying to do something that was too trendy or something, and she'd rein me back in. But she'd let me get right there.
So any other questions over here?
Hold on.
Do you have any other interest in food and cooking in your life?
Yes, I do. Anything that can be, I like anything that I don't know how to do yet. I like anything that allows me to create something with my hands. I'm an instant gratification person. I have little patience. So anything that I can do something and see that thing happen right away, I love. So for the book, actually, I'm working with this guy, Boston Potter. His name's Jeremy, and he makes these beautiful ceramics. And so I was like, I reached out to him and I was like, listen, would you be interested in me featuring some of your work? And would you also teach me how to do it so then I can create my own work and put it in the book and kind of go on this personal story, which he agreed to both. So next week, 2 weeks, I go and I work in a studio for a couple days a week, creating my own dishes. So you'll be able to pick them out, I'm sure, as you're shuffling through, and you're like, oh, that's ugly. But there's going to be a funny story behind it, so it's going to be great.
So do you see some correlation between your food that you're making and art that's going on, maybe like in museums?
Definitely. I mean, I find inspiration a lot from things that aren't food. I'm a very visual person, relatively artistic. I mean, you come have a tasting menu wherever I'm at, and it's going to be well put together like a piece of artwork, and that makes me happy. I like beautiful things. I like being surrounded by beautiful things and beauty in general. So that only is just part of it. And you're all beautiful.
Stop.
Uh-oh, now you're getting
I am about to ask the most cliche question,
Sure.
but what advice do you have for maybe graduates I mean, like people who are about to graduate who have like no idea what they're gonna do.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at, guys.
Okay, so I was there until not long ago. So when I was going to the regular school, the university, I was kind of going for this business major and international business, the most generic thing that allowed me to be whatever I wanted. I wasn't good at it, so that was one reason to get out of it. The other reason was obviously I didn't have this passion for it. So when cooking came about, I just didn't know that I could do it for the rest of my life. I didn't know that was an option for me. And had I not explored it as a kid, or my mother didn't see that exploration phase happen, I would have never gotten into it, because she's the one who was like, you need to go to culinary school. And I mean, the question of like, what do you want to do once you get out of school, or what do you want to do for the rest of your life, I think is bullshit. You can do whatever you want, however many times you want. You know, I mean, there are basics. Obviously, you need to live. You need to constantly move forward and work towards something bigger. But just like I'm doing now, I don't know where I want my future restaurant. I don't even know if I want a future restaurant. I don't know if I want this traditional sense of tasting menu, or if I'm going to just open up a hot dog stand. But the best part about doing that is not knowing that is this exploration phase that happens, and I get to bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce and keep trying. But I know the core of my passion, which is cooking. So it's recognizing that little seed, and then exploring everything else around it. Trial and error. Fake it till you make it.
All right.
Okay, we probably have time for one more question. One more? Anybody want to take the last question?
Oh no, I that's a lot of pressure.
Okay, here's one question.
Yeah.
Oh, so you do have a question. Okay. Then I'll ask a question.
I just want to know, like, what type of events and upcoming things are you going to be at, or is there going to be more demonstrations with Xhibition Kitchen, or how would people reach you for certain community events and such?
Yeah. So a lot of times people reach out via social media. If I'm doing something, I'll post it up there. So I'm doing this dinner at Farm and Fable. I just posted it yesterday. They sold out quite quickly, but it was only 10 seats. But things like that, I'll post it, and you'll find out that way. Otherwise, whatever partnership I have, like I'm doing this thing with Emerald in New Orleans in a week, and so obviously he posts that, and that goes out to the world, and you buy tickets for that. But kind of like I don't know 8 months in advance. I know whenever I get that spark and I want to plan something, and I'll plan it and I'll put it on social media, and that's it. But to get in touch with me, the best way is either Instagram or public Facebook page. I get a lot of messages via that, or Twitter. I handle all my social media, so I see everything. So no one else is doing that stuff for me.
Okay, so Kristen, we just want to say thank you so much for coming. We hope you will come back someday soon to answer your question. I hope she will come back someday soon. I hope everybody has enjoyed this. This was a great event. I know that you guys will all come back when Kristen has her published cookbook, because this was quite a treat to hear about a cookbook before it's even published. Next week, I will just say happy homecoming, everybody, Husky spirit throughout campus. My next cookbook is November 18th, Homemade Kitchen with Alana Chernell. So hope you'll join us for that. And again, Kristen, if anybody wants to come up and would you take pictures of people? Yeah. Or come up and just talk to people. So just give Kristen a couple of minutes. We'll start clearing the room, and I'll bring Kristen out there to this room so we can have a few questions for her at the back of the room. And also our Foodie Friends list. If you guys want to know about first-time things, just sign up on our Foodie Friends list, and you simply get an email about these types of events, because you guys were the first on the list when Kristen agreed to come here. I think way back in June we started talking about this. So again, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Keep it that way.
Yeah.